and I am the co-director of the Master of Chemical Sciences here at Penn. And we have with us today our faculty advisor, which is Dr. David Chenoweth, and there he is. And we have our administrative director, which is Sally Cardy, and our administrative coordinator, Rye Eskridge. Okay, so that's our team, and we're here to answer any questions you might have about the program. We're going to give you a general overview of everything. Like I said, again, if you have any questions, just type it in the chat room. Also, throughout the presentation, Sally and I will be dropping some links into the chat room that you can click on to learn more about what we're talking about in the slideshow. All right, so we're going to get started, and again, we will have this available for you. The recording will be available to you after. We'll email the link to you along with the slides. Okay. All right. So we'll get started. So this is the Master of Chemical Sciences here at the University of Pennsylvania. And it's a professional master's program in chemistry. All right. So let me just make sure. There we go. Now, a little bit about the program. We are housed in the School of Arts and Sciences. The University of Pennsylvania actually has 12 schools, and the largest of the 12 is the School of Arts and Sciences, and that's where we are. And we are within the School of Arts and Sciences, there are 3 colleges, and we are housed within the College of Liberal and Professional Studies. So they take care of things like billing questions, application problems. So as you apply to the program, you'll work to get your application in. Once it's complete, they send it over to the Department of Chemistry, who reviews the applications and makes the decisions. Okay, so that comes to our third piece, which is the Department of Chemistry. So this program is housed academically within the Department of Chemistry, and all of your advising and your classes and things are there in chemistry. So you can see here the beautiful to study. Okay. All right, so I did mention that this is a professional master's program. What does that mean? A lot of your, I did notice that my internet connection is a little unstable. Sorry if I'm a little breaking up a little bit. But our professional master's programs are a little bit different than a research master's. Research masters typically are preparing you only for a PhD. Our program will also prepare you for a PhD, but we also give a lot of extras for professional development in case what you really want to do is go out and get have a career after the program in like industry, nonprofits, government, etc. So we're going to give you those extra things, work with you with networking, with resume building and so forth, so that you can, making industry connections so that you can go out and work afterwards if you'd like. All right, so that's a little bit of a different nuance to just a straight up research program, but it's also, it's a nice thing because you can sort of explore both sides, right? Working in industry or going on for a PhD. Of course, after a PhD, you can still work in industry and you'll have all that preparation as well. All right, so it's focusing on helping you find a career after graduation, and of course, you can go on for the PhD. Now, the program itself is for, we're going to work on professional and skills development. So again, you're going to be taking chemistry classes, you're going to be in labs, you're going to be doing research and so forth, but we're also going to be working on those skills, and which includes writing, sorry to say, but need to be good writers, and other professional skills, so that when you're ready, you are a great candidate for a position in industry, again, or government or nonprofit, whatever you'd like to do. This program is actually designed for recent graduates from undergrad or working professionals. We actually have both full-time and a part-time track. So if you are coming right out of undergrad, you just want to go right into the master's program, go full-time, we're there for you. If you already have a position somewhere, but you really want to get that master's degree, we can work with you to do a part-time program. Okay, so we're very flexible with that. And we can actually help you move back and forth between full and part-time as things come up in life, right? So you might start out part-time and decide to quit your job and go full-time. We can help you with that, so you're not stuck in one track or another. Typically, a full-time program takes approximately 2 years, and a part-time program can take 4 to 5 years, depending on how many courses you can take a year, with your schedule. Okay. I've had part-time students still finish in 4 years, or I mean, excuse me, in 2 years, but it's like they had no life, right? So they worked all day, and then they took classes, and then then they finished in 2 years, but they were very tired at the end. So we can work with you to develop a schedule and a plan that works for your timeline, for your abilities and your time. Like how much time do you have to do it? You have access to state-of-the-art research facilities here at Penn, which is just incredible. We'll be talking about that in just a minute. And you'll be taking courses that are PhD level courses. So this is really going to prepare you for a PhD program if that is your goal. But it's also going to give you the kinds of knowledge and information that are going to make you a great candidate for a job out in industry. All right. Next. So the chemistry faculty areas of focus. We have a lot of chemistry faculty, so we're not going to list every single one, but we do have areas of focus, and they're listed here. And I think I'm going to let David talk a little bit more about that, so about this picture that we have on this slide.
Great, thanks, Yvette. Hi, everybody. I'm David Chenoweth. I'm a faculty member in the chemistry department, and it's really nice to meet all of you. So one kind of fun fact about myself, I was actually in a professional master's program. I was the part-time professional master's program before I went back and got my PhD. So I worked in industry and I took classes in a master's program just like this one, and really build up my skill set and everything to the point where at some point I decided that that was the right track for me to go back and get a PhD. And it was really a good move for me. So our department, we're a pretty diverse department. We are situated on the University of Pennsylvania campus, kind of smack dab in the middle of all the sciences. Engineering's really close to us. There's material science close to us. Physics is close to us. And we have several buildings in a chemistry complex, but we've also started to invest in energy science. And so as part of that investment in energy science, and all of the chemistry that goes along with developing energy science, we've decided to build this new building that you see pictured here on the right-hand side of the slide. This is the Vagelos Energy Institute, and that we will break ground, or actually I think it will be finished in 2024. So that's a concept picture of what it's going to look like. I think that's pretty much a final picture of what it should look like, I believe. So we're really excited about that and excited about the chemistry department expanding. So within the chemistry department, if we think about what it's composed of, we have the 4 traditional areas: the organic and inorganic and biological and physical chemistry. But then each of the research groups within those areas, they tend to be very interdisciplinary. And so the organic chemists, they're involved in synthesis and characterization of new compounds and materials, but they're also involved in collaborations with the medical school and collaborations with material science departments. And there's just lots of opportunities across the campus. The second bullet here, chemistry of life processes, I would say that probably best describes our biological chemists, but it also describes our physical chemists and our organic chemists and some of our bio-inorganic chemists. And so many of the chemists in the department cross over in all of these different areas. And there's really diverse taste as far as research goes within the research groups. And as Masters of Chemical Science students, you have access to all these research groups. You can go to research group meetings, and you can really kind of pick and choose what groups you're interested in joining. And in fact, this is the time of year when many of the research groups have research group open houses. And I just got an email today from one of my colleagues in organic chemistry that said, could you please let all the master students know that we have an open house tomorrow and we'd like to invite all of them. So this is, they're very much recruiting master students to join their research programs and start projects. Let's see, there's a few other, interdisciplinary areas here like chemistry and the environment and energy and hydrogen economy and I would say those things cross over also in the organic and inorganic realm of chemistry. So Yvette, does that pretty much cover everything?
Yeah, I thought that was great. That's a great synopsis of what's going on in the department now.
Okay, great.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so on to the chemistry department itself. So the Penn Chemistry is a complex of 4 buildings totaling 166,000 square feet, lots of lab space. And again, there are spaces for master students to do projects within groups and research groups, which is really neat. There are multiple facilities and centers, and these are some of them. And I think I'll hand that back to David to talk about some of these centers and facilities.
Okay, thanks, Yvette. So this is one of the things that I really like about Penn. And I have to say, so I've done PhD recruiting and Masters of Chemical Science recruiting for several years now, PhD recruiting for about the last 10 years. And the one thing that I always tell all the PhD students at recruiting weekend is at Penn, I have access to more resources than I had in my postdoc at MIT or in my PhD at Caltech. I think we have much better resources on our campus than most other campuses. And part of that is because we have access to medical school resources, we have access to engineering resources, and then the chemistry department has a lot of different just world-class facilities within it. One of those really interesting facilities is actually the last bullet point on this slide. It's a high throughput experimentation facility. And we are one of the only chemistry departments in the entire nation that has this facility. And this is one of the things that ends up getting a lot of our students jobs at the local pharmaceutical companies is if they've had experience in the high throughput experimentation facility. This is a facility where we can run hundreds of reactions, sometimes thousands of reactions at one time on a very, very small scale. And then we have robots set up in there that can screen these reactions and look at the outcome of all of these reactions. And so this is something that a lot of pharmaceutical companies are hiring our students to work in or hiring our students for their experience in. And they're also trying to mimic the facility that we have at Penn too. So this is a facility that master students can get experience in by contributing to research programs or research projects within different groups. We also have a chemistry computing facility. We have a scientific glass blower. We're one of the few chemistry departments left that still has a glass blower, and she's fantastic. And then we have cell culture facilities and biological chemistry resource center, all of the standard instrumentation that you would have. We probably have more NMRs than many chemistry departments. Actually, we might even have more NMRs than 5 or 6 different chemistry departments. There's a lot of NMRs in our department. That's one resource that you never have to wait in line for. We have a really world-class mass spec facility, and that's ran by a mass spec guru that we hired from Merck Research Labs. And we have an excellent X-ray facility too, and a lot of other resources that aren't listed here that you have access to when you're a researcher within the chemistry department. Okay, back to you, Yvette.
Thanks. It's just one of the more exciting parts of the program is having access to all of these facilities and so forth. So on to the curriculum. So I'm sure you're wondering what the curriculum looks like here at Penn. And for our program, it's 10 CU program minimum. So you can do more, obviously, if you want to, but you need 10 to graduate. That's equivalent to approximately 30 semester hours. All right. Most of our courses are 1 CU, so it's 3 semester hours of time. And you are required to take the pro seminar course, which I'll talk about in just a minute. And you have a concentration, which you'll take 4 to 6 CUs in that. And elective courses, you'll take 2 to 4 CUs in that. And then there's an optional independent study course. And then you do your applied project, which is called the capstone. So that's your research. All right, so that's the general layout of the program. Now, the pro seminar course, which is that required course, you take that in your first semester here at Penn. And topics include the scientific method, searching scientific databases, research design, professional scientific communication and ethics. All right, so you take an entire semester, you're talking about research. We have guest speakers coming in that are talking about opportunities both outside of Penn and industry, and also letting students know about these open houses for the different labs so they can go and visit. They can sit in on lab meetings for various professors in different research groups, which is really fun. So a lot of you usually find out about those in pro seminar every week. And we have just a lot of different opportunities to do professional development, but also learning about the department so that next semester, right in your second semester, you can get started on your research. All right, so that's a really great course to get you situated in the department and understanding where you're at and getting started thinking about your research. There are a number of concentrations you can choose from. And I think when you apply, you can choose one of these. You're not stuck with it. So if when you get here, you take a few courses and you say, oh, I put biological, but really I'm interested in organic, you can change once you're here. So don't feel like you've got to make that decision as you apply. There's ample opportunity for you to change after your first semester. Okay, so these are the different concentrations that we have available: biological, inorganic, organic, physical, materials, and environmental. So they really align with the focus area of our research here in the department. All right. And then there's the capstone requirement. So you have the different courses, right? And then you have the capstone, and that's the key right there, right? You want to find a project that's applied research to highlight the skills and knowledge that you learn here at Penn with all your coursework and so forth, show off your skills and so forth, so that you are then a good candidate for a position when you go out to apply for jobs. We do try to get that research to focus on your career goals. So if you want to work in pharmaceuticals, we'll try to get you a project that's focusing on that. You can work with current or potential employers for that. So you can work in outside labs. And you can also do projects within the university, especially if you are planning to go on for a PhD. We want to get you into a lab. We want to get you working with professors and potentially publishing as soon as possible. All right. So the process for the capstone is first you select a faculty advisor, and you don't do that before you apply. I know that's typical for research masters, is that you reach out to different faculty and say, hey, I'd like to work in your lab. What we prefer you to do is come into Penn, get accepted, and then in that first semester, you're going to the different lab meetings, you're meeting all the different professors and what they're doing, and then you select your faculty advisor at that point. All right, so it gives you a semester to kind of figure it all out. And then you identify your research interest, identify your supervisors, you prepare and submit your proposal, complete your research project in about 6 to 9 months, and prepare and submit your report, and you give a poster. Okay, so we have poster sessions and oral presentations. So that's the process. You have, if you're a full-time student, you've got the full 2 years to go through this process. And there's help throughout the whole process between advising and the pro seminar course, and the faculty, of course, are super helpful. Some examples of some of our students' research projects that have been done recently. Here's a list of them. I'm not going to read them all. I'll just read the first couple. There was an environmental concentration student who worked on anti-fouling capability of melagrin and derivatives. And you can go down through dendritic ligands for nanoparticles and inorganic and so forth. So these are just a few examples. There are more on the web. And you can see that it says we've already put that in that room. You can click on that to see some of the capstones from just this last semester in spring 21. All right, now some opportunities for you as a student here in the Master of Chemical Sciences. First of all, professional development. Like we said, we want you to be building your resume and preparing to go out and work or go on for a PhD. So there's a tremendously vibrant seminar series available to you. I think it's like almost every day there's a seminar that you can go to in the different fields. And there is, you can see in the chat room, the chemistry lecture series is linked out, so you can check that out. So really great seminar series. learn and hear from people from all over coming into Penn to talk about their research. There's cohort building activities. You can see here in this picture, students went to the Academy of Natural Sciences. Nothing to do with chemistry, but it was just a fun day to get to know fellow students and hang out. And there's networking events with both alumni from the program and from other companies and so forth. There's mentoring opportunities with our alumni. There's professional and communication skills, learning to write. Okay, that's highly sought after in industry. People are like we can get a lot of chemists, but what we really need are people who can write about chemistry. So it's really important that we develop your writing skills as you develop your chemistry skills. So we'll help you with that as well. Some of our off-campus research opportunities, these are companies that we either have currently agreements with, so we're sending students to them, or we've had students work with them in the past. So these are opportunities to work right here in Philadelphia with some outside partners to do research and to learn what it's like to be in that industry setting and make sure it's what you want before you, if you're like on the fence, you're like, not sure if I want to go into industry or go into a PhD program. This is an opportunity to try out industry and see what you think before you commit fully, right, to that. And you may decide that what I really want to do is go into the PhD. Industry is not for me. So this is an opportunity. And many of our students have done capstone projects with these companies. All right, a little bit about our program. Right now we have 52 active students taking classes this semester or doing research. 38% are 64% male, and 82% of the students are full-time. So the rest are part-time. Many of them actually work at Penn or in one of the local pharmaceutical companies. The Philadelphia area has a lot of pharmaceutical companies, so there's plenty of students who are working full-time for them and then coming in for classes here as needed. So international students are currently 66% of our students are international students, and they come from these countries. That's just this year. So certainly in other years, we've had different countries represented, but it's a nice diversity. If you are an international student, you're coming to the US to study, I just wanted to let you know that all of our concentrations fulfill the STEM requirement. So that means that you get the additional time for optional practical training at the end. So that's what they call OPT, that allows you to work in the United States after you graduate. It's 12 months. This STEM actually increases that to 27 months. So you're able to work in the country for 27 months before you have to get your H-1B visa. So it gives you more time to, again, work with some different companies, try some things out before you commit. And then if your company said, yep, let's keep you and let's do this, they can then convert you to a full-time, to work in the country full-time after that. So it gives you more time for that. You're also eligible for paid internships in the summer of your first year. So you have to be at Penn for 2 semesters, and that's true for all universities. Once you have been in school for 2 years or 2 semesters, you are then eligible to do CPT, which is curriculum practical training. It allows you to work for a company outside of Penn and get paid and basically develop, again, those skills and that you're trying to build to move on in different organizations. So that's that. Now, what's the typical major for our program? What are we looking for on an application? Obviously, chemistry is a typical one, but it's not always. There are students who do come in without a chemistry background or a chemistry major, I mean, but you really do need a strong science background to come into the program, right? So we're really looking for 2 semesters of calculus, 2 semesters of inorganic, organic, and physics, okay? And that makes you a very strong candidate for the program. A little bit about our alumni, to give you an idea here. Here are some of the positions that our alumni currently are holding. We just picked some randomly today. Actually, Rye picked them for me. I said, hey, pick out some positions. So here are a few that she found where our students are, our alumni are now. And we do have a LinkedIn group where all of our students are, that we can like follow each other and see how people are moving to different positions. But you can see here people are working as senior lab coordinators, Director of Technical Operations, Organic Chemist, and Senior Research Technician. So that's neat. And about 45% of our alumni now are actually in PhD programs, or have just completed PhD programs. And a number of them, surprisingly or not surprisingly, are at the University of Pennsylvania. So obviously you go in, you start working in the lab with one of the professors, and they decide to have you stay on and do a PhD after you complete your master's. And so not surprising at all. And it's really great to have that opportunity to do that. Other schools, University of Texas, University of California, Los Angeles, students have gone there as well. So a number of our students are going on to PhDs at other schools, but also at Penn. So, all right, so next steps. Application deadline. We actually have one intake a year, and that's in the fall semester, which for us starts at the end of August. And so for fall 2022, our priority deadline right now is February 1st. And our final deadline to apply is March 1st. So you have a bit of time to get in. We always encourage students to get their applications in sooner rather than later. March is fairly late, so we really do encourage you to apply as soon as you're ready to apply. And I see that Rye has put the application in the chat room. All right, so what is on the application? So we work our application through CollegeNet, which is just one of the companies that does applications. And so it's an online application, and it's fairly straightforward. They're asking for your name and address and contact information and previous schools and your background and your in terms of chemistry and so forth. There are application essays, which are listed on the website. There's an application fee. Transcripts. So you'll need to submit unofficial transcripts if you did your university work in the United States. If you if you completed programs outside of the United States, so if you got your undergraduate or you took another master's program or something outside of the US, those transcripts, you need to send official transcripts to an evaluation service like WES or CERTILE to be evaluated, and then they submit that evaluation to us for review. Okay, so that's just a School of Arts and Sciences policy. It's not anything to do with chemistry. It's just something that we do at the school level. So any transcript that's from outside the U.S., even if it's Canada or the UK, has to be evaluated by one of these organizations. And when you go into apply and put in your transcript, it will give you the information on how to do that. All right. Then we would like your resume. And if English is not your first language, we would like your TOEFL score or IELTS score, okay? And they're looking for a minimum of 100 for TOEFL. I forget what it is for IELTS. I want to say 7, but don't quote me on that. I think, Rye, maybe you could look that up for us and let us know. So if you say did your undergraduate in the United States, even though English is not your first language and you feel that you don't need to take the test because you've already been in the US for 4 years or whatnot, you can email admissions and ask for a waiver, and they can let you know if you can be granted a waiver for that. All right. And then 2 letters of recommendation. Ideally, it would be from professors, but if you've been out of school for a while, you're working, and you haven't really kept in touch with your professors, you can absolutely use colleagues, supervisors, people who know you and also know about your desire to come back and go to school, and why you're interested in chemistry, for example. Okay. And then GRE scores are required. Okay. And we put the institutional code here because University of Pennsylvania is a very large place. And so if you just use the general Penn code, it doesn't always get to us. So do use the 2986 to get to the College of Liberal and Professional Studies. All right. So those are the requirements for the application. It's not too bad. The essay is very important, though. Make sure that you take a little bit of time and think about the questions and talk about your desire to do chemistry. Why do you want to do it? Because that's important for the reviewers when they look at your application. All right, so that's it. Does anyone have any questions? I do see that Rye did say yes, for the IELTS score, we're looking for a score of 7. Now, if your score is below that, you can still apply. They will do an interview to, make sure that your English, we just want to make sure that you'll be successful in the program, that you'll understand the professors when they're talking and so forth. So that's the only reason why we require that. You guys are welcome to unmute your microphones to ask questions, or you can type in the chat room if you're shy. Now, we threw a lot of information at you. Okay, well, Bri put her contact information in the chat room, and she's really great at sending it to the right person. So if you have a question about academics, Dr. Chenoweth might be a good person. She'll send it to the right person. So okay, we have a question from Crystal. How is the training? Okay, so Crystal is saying that she's not familiar with all the instruments, as the schools lack some of them and they were in high demand. How's the training for those things, or are we expected to play catch up with the instrumentation?
I can answer that one.
Okay,
That's from Crystal. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay, great. Hi, Crystal. Nice to meet you. Thanks for your question. So with each of the instrument facilities in chemistry, we have a director of each of those facilities, and they have a really extensive training program. Even if you've used the instrument before, you still get retrained on how to use it as if you've never used it. So there's no playing catch up or anything. And it's okay that you haven't used any of these instruments. They really are experts, and they walk you through and take you through every step of how to use the instrument. So, yep, we don't expect you to know how to use any of them.
That was a great question. Anybody else? Yeah, no problem. Happy to answer questions. Well, all right. I think we'll stick around for a bit to answer any questions. Do we have another one? Okay, great. Okay, what would you think the biggest takeaway from the program is compared to other master's programs in chemistry? David, do you want me to take a swing at that one, or did you want to try? I can go ahead. Okay. So I think that one of the biggest differences between our program and a lot of other programs, like I said, is that professional development piece. I think that, there are a lot of research masters out there, and they're terrific, as ours is. But I think that the additional development that we do with networking, with getting you out to meet industry, to getting you prepared for that, is huge. I think that sometimes in research masters, the programs are more focused on just getting you into a PhD. And if that turns out to not be what you want, they really don't have a lot of help in terms of like, oh, go see career services. Well, that's great, but it's not necessarily going to help you as well as those industry connections that we can help you with, right? So I think that's probably the biggest difference between ours and other programs. And of course, our world-class facilities, and amazing faculty, but that was a given.
So, Yvette, I just realized I was muted when I was trying to talk to you before. So I think one other aspect of our master's program is that you're right there alongside all of the other PhD students, and we're really creating a really rich community for the PhD and the master students to be, both be part of the chemistry department and the entire university and the research community at Penn. I think that's a little bit different than other universities. You're not going to be isolated in this master's program where you don't have any interaction with the professors or the PhD students or anything like that. There are also many, many opportunities for research across campus within the chemistry department and within other departments. And there's a lot of active collaborations between the chemistry department and the medical school and engineering. And the access to local industry is just phenomenal. There's literally pharmaceutical companies like right within a few miles. A lot of my graduate students are at pharmaceutical companies. The ones that didn't go into academics, they have jobs at J&J and Merck and Bristol Myers Squibb, and they come back and they visit the department regularly and they recruit for those for the local industry regularly. There's always companies beating our door down, wanting students to apply for jobs. And so I think that's a really unique situation too.
Thanks. Yeah. And then Sophia's asking, does Penn also have a research master's program or just this professional master's program? So our professional master's program is a research master's program. It's just that we have these additional professional aspects to it, which are different than a lot of research masters that are just research. So we have this other aspect to it, but you will be doing research. You will be in a lab. You will be working with professors. You will be working with PhD students. So I think that's maybe what you're asking, unless you're asking if there are other research master's programs in other departments, in which case, yes.
Yeah, Yvette, I could say something there too,
Cool.
if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it definitely, this program can be an intense research master's program, or it can be a master's program where you do very little research. I think it's a very flexible program. I have a PhD student in my lab now that was a MCS student. And so his name's Cheng Feng, and he completed the master's program. And while he completed that, he was doing research in my lab. And then he decided to apply to the PhD program. We admitted him to the PhD program. And instead of coming into the PhD program and taking classes again, he just came directly into my lab. He did his candidacy, his second year candidacy for his PhD, and passed his candidacy, and now there's no more classes to take. And so it actually accelerated his pace through the PhD program to do it that way. So if that is what you're interested in, that has happened before with several students where they have transitioned right from their master's, finished all their classes, and then shortened the time of their PhD by doing it here at UPenn.
Awesome. Now we have a long question from Crystal, which I think may also be a good one for you, because I think maybe it looks like, so how do I reconcile my want for getting a PhD eventually, as well with my desire to work in as opposed to research? I fear that I may spend quite a while before I graduate, which will cut into my possible career years, which in turn may cause some employers to not want to hire me. Is this fear unfounded?
So having been through this myself, I think this fear is unfounded. So I can just give you a little background. So my path, when I finished my Bachelor of Science degree, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I really didn't know enough about any one area of chemistry or have the experience, I felt, to go and do a PhD. So I ended up doing an internship and getting a little bit of experience, and then getting a job in industry as a bachelor's chemist. And while I was doing that, I started taking professional master's courses. And this whole time I was feeling like, okay, I started college late, I'm getting a little older. And, I always worried about this, but it was never a problem. And then after being in industry for several years, I decided to go back and do my PhD. That took 6 years. And then I did a postdoc. And then I decided to go into academics instead of going back into industry. And I had this fear the whole time that, I'm now 10 years older than most other students going into academics. Is this going to be a problem? And it really wasn't at all. And so I always thought about that. That was always in the back of my mind, but it ended up not being an issue. So that's my experience.
Great questions, guys. Do the current students do multiple research projects, or are they more focused on a single capstone project?
I think it's usually a single capstone project just because of the time. The time is fairly short for that capstone project. But in your first semester, you typically do not do any research. You figure out who you might want to do research for if you do want to do research within the department. But then, as I understand it, you can sign up for research from that point forward in all the other semesters. So you could really conduct research by signing up for some of these research credits in all the other semesters and get a really rich research experience for the rest of your master's program. Or you could wait and just do that short, 6-month capstone project also. So there's both options. But it's usually focused on, I think quite often, one research project just because of the timing.
Cool. Great questions again. Anybody else? I think this new version of Zoom, the old version of Zoom, it would tell you if someone was typing, but now it doesn't. So you could be asking a question and we're just not seeing it. Well, all right. Yeah, anything more?
No, I was just going
Like,
to say, if they don't want to type it in, they can also just turn their mic off and
yeah,
just shout it
yeah,
out. We're happy to
exactly. We're
just kind
happy
of
to
talk
hear.
freely.
Yep. Much faster. Well, all right. So we'll hang out for a few more minutes in case anyone has any last minute questions. I want to thank everyone for coming today. And I hope that we've answered your questions. But if not, do email Rye and we can set up another Zoom call between like one-on-one, and we can chat with you about your goals and your interests and answer any questions you have. If you have application questions, we can help you with those. So feel free to reach out. And like I said, Rye she just put in the chat room again, she can send the email to the right person to get you a quick answer for anything that you're wondering about. So, all right. Well, thank you all